Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to use those travel size art supplies I showed you in a previous video because one of you requested that I do a demonstration, so I'm happy to do that, and thank you for the suggestion. So if you hadn't watched the video, basically what I was showing people is you can put your two paints on a piece of watercolor. You want to use heavyweight watercolor paper and then dry it out, and then you can use it later on when you're traveling. And it just makes a really cool little kit. I kind of tend to paint all over my house, upstairs, downstairs, and in my clubhouse, which so sometimes this is just handy to have so that I don't have to try to locate all my art supplies if I have the whim to want to create some art. But the trick for this and for any of these travel sized art supplies is you don't want to use a lot of water. You don't want to oversaturate it. Unlike your pan paint where you might spray water on, I would not do that. Instead, I would just put water on my brush and go to the color that I want to use and wet that color. And then the other thing is, this is a laminated piece of, it was just like a color chart that I did, and I just laminated the paper. And so I just used the back because it's white and you can see the paint pretty well. And I use that as my palette. So you can really get a lot of water on that versus doing it on the paint of paper. So what I'm going to do is I have a little drawing here, and I'm just going to demo how you would do it. And keep in mind this video is not about this picture that I'm painting, but mainly for showing you how these travel size art supplies work. The other one that I showed was the Faber-Castell, or the watercolor pencils. I think I had two different kinds, and that I just made color blocks of each color that I had, and you can use that to also paint. So let me get some green going here for my plumeria leaf. So I want to use like a spring green. Okay, so I activate that with water, and then I can paint that onto my paper. Now when I came up with this concept, the idea is I was going to paint in my travel journal, which doesn't use a lot of water because it's not really watercolor paper. It's more like a heavy-duty writing paper. And so I wasn't ever planning on saturating the paper because I wouldn't be able to handle it. And the same concept would go for the paints. So it's like short time painting, you know, for brief periods of time. It's not going to be like hours and hours and hours, and I'm not doing large pieces. So therefore, you don't need a lot of supplies. You're just trying to get the most amount of supplies in a smallest amount of space. That's the name of this game. So as you can see, as I'm using it, this is a question somebody had asked me, you can see that it starts turning white. And that's where later on, once this dries, or if I were returning back from my trip, I would then go over it with the colored pencil in that spot. That's why I labeled them. See? It was a pain to do, but I'm glad I did it. So let me just use this up so you could see. So you see that that's all white right there. So when this dries, this paper dries, and that's why you want to use really good quality paper, the heavy duty stuff, not the cheap stuff. then you can go over it again, and it will cover it back, and the pigment will attach. So I've done that in a couple spots already, so that works. Okay, and then the last one that you wanted to see was, this was the Neocolor ones that I did. And now this one, once you use it, unlike the watercolor paints, you know, I used that spot and then I was able to, let me go back to it. I can go back to it and still use this wet area because there's still pigment on there, just like you would when you use watercolors, right? You can rework it. But with the Neocolors, these are the Neocolor crayons, and sorry, I didn't bring down the actual art supplies. This is like a one-time use, so you don't want to, when I say one-time use, you can't rework it. Once you do a little corner, you can't go in and reuse that corner later on. So I'll try to demo what I mean. I should probably pick a darker color. Okay, let me pick a darker color so you could see. That's really not the color I want, but this is good for the demonstration. Okay, so I've got the Neocolors. These are very vibrant, more than watercolor. But if I were to let that dry and go back to it, you'll see that you won't be able to rework this corner spot. So I'll let that dry and then I'll demonstrate what I mean. All right, I guess this is gonna work the same as the watercolor, so that's good. I was thinking that just because like on the paper, once you wet it and you apply it, I couldn't go back to these areas and rework these. It's not as forgiving as like watercolor. Itself. You know, I could go back to these areas and try to do a little something. See how I can move the color? But you really, well, now it's going to make me look like a liar. But with the Neocolors, it's not so much. Here, I'll do an area where it's dried. Just very faintly. So anyways, I was thinking that that was going to be the same with this, but not so much the case, because I can wet this in an area that had been previously wet and I could still get some pigment off of. So, okay, that's good. And once this, just like the other pad, once this is dried, you can go and take your Neocolor crayon and put more on, you know, scribble more on there, and you can refill it that way. So this is very refillable. Okay, final question was, so how do I store this? Is basically I wait until the paint is completely dry. So I just leave it out and wait until it's dry, and then I'll put it away. Otherwise, you're gonna get a big mess, and see, I just made this smudge right there. So let it completely dry. And then I just wanted to show you this really cute little little compact storage case that I found at TJ Maxx, or maybe it was Marshall's, but one of those places. So always keep your eyes out for things that you can convert. This was originally just like a colored pencil thing that they had, and I think it was like $8. It had a pad of cheap paper and a bunch of cheap not even watercolor, it was colored pencils in here. And basically I just took all those things out, I put in my paintbrushes, and they fit really nicely. I can have a pencil, a waterproof pen, and then I just take all my little kits and they fit perfectly in this little pocket here. So I could just put all these things in here. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed now while trying to hold the camera and film this. And I take my sketchbook and I'm good to go. That's it. That's all I need. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I had fun making it, and keep those suggestions coming. If I can accommodate, I will. And let me know if you have any further questions, and feel free to share this video. As always, I appreciate you watching. Until next time, take care.